So let's go on this YouTuber journey from start to finish. Everything starts off with creating the video. Basically, I have a Sony a6100 camera and I have a Sigma 16mm f1.4 lens that attaches to that. The reason for this particular choice is I just wanted a blurry background. I wanted a cheap camera that wasn't too expensive. I have a Rode VideoMic Pro Plus. The audio quality is pretty much the same audio quality that you see here. I'm literally using one right now. I use a newer LED light. A lot of video quality actually does rely on lighting. Once you've got your video footage, you import it into a video editing software. I tend to use Final Cut Pro X. It's been a very intuitive piece of software to use, and I've actually got another video that you can check out if you want to learn how to use that in 15 minutes. From start to finish, it's a really nice piece of software. Every single video on this channel has been edited using that. But now that you've got your video, you've edited it all, you need a title and a thumbnail. The thumbnail bit is the bit that requires some graphic design software. I tend to use Sketch. I've been using Sketch literally since I started making tech stuff. It has been my go-to companion in terms of graphic software. If you don't have a Mac, because unfortunately it's Mac only, you can use a software like Figma, which does something very similar to Sketch. It allows you to not only edit photos a little bit, but it allows you to create vector graphics, which is really useful. If you don't want to create your own custom graphics, you can actually use a software called Canva, which is actually a website. Canva allows you to create graphics really easily. If you are absolutely beginning and you don't really have a feel for design, then Canva is a good alternative. To save time, what you do is you can actually grab graphics from different websites. I tend to grab vector graphics from Flat Icon. Flat Icon has a lot of different free graphics that you can use in your software, you can use it in your websites. For example, I used it when I was prototyping different apps. I used it for different icons within those apps. If you're looking to do color design, what you can use is a thing called Flat UI Color. This is actually a website that's free that just has a lot of different color palettes. So if you just want a defined palette of how things work together, try using that. If you're looking for high quality photos of other people, and I don't mean that in a weird way, but like high quality photos from other people, there's a website called Unsplash. It's certainly very useful if you are creating a website, for example, and you just need a stock image that's actually decent. Remember that we are creating a video here. Sometimes you need to get video footage, but you just don't have the ability to actually record that footage. So for example, if you wanted footage of a certain city, you can't necessarily just fly over to Japan and go get that right now. Stock footage you can get from a website like Pexels, for example. Pexels has a lot of free video footage. It's actually pretty high quality, to be honest. If you are willing to pay, you can use Storyblocks. If you're a little bit more on the artistic side, you could try using ArtGrid. The problem with ArtGrid is that it's a bit expensive, and I find that it doesn't have the diversity of footage that I wanted personally, but it is pretty good. It's not a bad one to try out. Now that you've got all these videos that are completed, you need somewhere to physically store the memory. I found that whenever I've had hard drives in the past, somehow I lose them. I remember once I had hundreds of photos from like 3 months of photos that I took, and then I lost that because I didn't put it on the cloud. So now I put absolutely everything on the cloud. I tend to use Dropbox personally because it's fast, it's reliable, I can access it with my phone. A lot of other people use Google Drive. One of the tools that is actually much less well known is called Backblaze. Backblaze has this offer where you can store unlimited things onto their server. What it does is it takes your hard drives and backs those up to the server, and you can download those at any time. It's not quite as fluid as Dropbox or Google Drive, for example, and it's probably overall the cheapest option in terms of long-term cloud storage. YouTube itself has free music that you can use that's royalty free. What we tend to use for this channel is from a website called Epidemic Sound, because I think sound choice is really important, and I think that it's a lot nicer when you have good music that isn't just heard from other videos. A lot of the videos that you see on this channel use screen recordings, and the software that I use for that is called ScreenFlow. ScreenFlow is kind of like a mini Final Cut Pro X, or it's a mini video editor. I've actually used to create some sort of course type stuff using ScreenFlow just by itself and just doing screen recordings. You can actually even record from camera onto ScreenFlow. I think that ScreenFlow is a little bit limited in what it can do. For the purpose of recording screen shares, it's absolutely perfect. You can even add call call outs, you can magnify certain bits, you can blur out certain bits of your video. So it's really good for that aspect of things. If you don't need that, you could literally just use QuickTime, and QuickTime is free, comes with Mac. That's another way that you can do screen recording. Now, I think that this will be interesting to a lot of people, which is education about how to become a YouTuber. If you have a particular channel in mind that you want to emulate, literally just go to their channel. They probably talked about their YouTubing journey at some point during the channel. In terms of some of the more technical stuff, I created a YouTube algorithm video. I won't talk about it here too much, but that's definitely worthwhile checking out because it talks about some of the metrics that YouTube uses to actually recommend your videos to other people. There's another guy called Hillier Smith who does the editing for Logan Paul's vlogs, and I found that his content is super duper interesting. He really goes into a lot of detail about editing and the choices that he would make in a certain narrative and stuff like that. The other thing I did was Part-Time YouTuber Academy by Ali Abdaal. He just talks a lot about the processes and idea generation. That's a bit of stuff about how to become a YouTuber in terms of education. There's like a lot more resources, but I'll just leave it at that for the moment. Now that you've got a YouTube channel, you've uploaded videos, you've probably got people that want to read the stuff that you write. Creating a blog is a really important part, I think, of becoming a content creator. So I've used WordPress, Ghost, and Webflow in the past. I've also used like Squarespace and a bunch of other things. I think the best out of all of these is Ghost. I use the Ghost Pro plan, and the reason is just because I feel like Ghost is a really, really nice platform. It's got a very nice editor. It's something that you have a lot of control over with regards to the actual theme of the website and how it's designed, and I think that you actually get more control using Ghost than, for example, using WordPress. I run a website called Switchaboo, which is a video game blog that talks about Nintendo Switch stuff, and that's been running for the last 3 years and amassed about 1 million views overall. That used to run on WordPress, but we had to move to Ghost because we had a lot of problems with WordPress. I do find that Ghost is really, really good. Talking about writing, and I wanted to have a piece of software that I could use to write in because I write a lot of articles for the actual blog itself. What I tend to use is Ulysses. It gives you a really nice focused place to write. The software is very easy to use and it's something that just feels fluid, and I feel like you want to reduce the friction in writing as much as possible. If you have a thought you wanted to transfer as quickly as it can from your brain to the computer, it just feels like things are more in flow, and I feel like that makes life a lot more enjoyable. Things that I actually use on a day-to-day basis, I use Sorted, which is an app like a to-do list, and I've talked about it in another video actually, and I use that to try to plan out the things that I'm going to do throughout the day. I use Notion a lot, and I've talked about Notion endlessly, so much Notion on this channel, so I won't talk about it too much in this video. Notion is the one piece of software that sort of ties together this database of information that I'm collecting and writing about. Now that you've created all this stuff, it's time to make some money. There's actually quite a few different platforms that you can use to sell products. If you're selling like a digital product, probably one of the simplest things that you can use, if you're selling an ebook or something like that, is Gumroad. And Gumroad allows you to upload like a PDF file even, and then charge a certain amount, allows you to create a very small page. Very, very simple. You could probably create a product within an hour. Something that I use a lot though is Shopify, the single best platform for e-commerce. I have an e-commerce store. We literally did about 70,000 in terms of revenue last year, and that was all through Shopify, just one employee, and so that was really quite cool. If you're creating an online course, you can try to use something like Skillshare, for example. It allows you to upload courses, and the way that monetization on Skillshare works is that when people watch your course or sign up for Skillshare, then you can actually make a little bit of money. I've got a Skillshare course, for example, so if you sign up with the link below, even if you use a free trial, I'll actually get a bit of money. If you don't want to host your courses on a Skillshare platform, what you can do is you can use your own website. So you can actually create a thing on Podio, for example. Podio is another kind of website that allows you to upload different goods, allows you to get recurring memberships. Probably the most powerful thing about Podio is that it really allows you to organize your courses quite well. Okay, 4 more to go, let's do it. I wasn't going to talk about this too much because marketing is just like a whole nother video in itself. The one thing I do want to talk about, and probably the most important thing, is about email marketing. The problem with any single platform, whether that's YouTube, whether that's Twitter, whether that's Instagram, whatever it is that if the algorithm changes slightly, you really want to have a way to contact the people that are actually interested in, your actual audience itself. The best way to do that is with email marketing. I personally use ConvertKit just because it has like a few automations that you can use there. It allows you to segment the subscribers. We're getting up to the last 3 things. After a while, you start to realize, hey, there's like 14 other things that you've already done at this point, right? You probably want to get someone on board to help you. For example, making an app for the App Store, I ended up hiring a developer to help me with that. I found that the website I tend to hire from is called Upwork. You can just hire anyone to do anything. I used it particularly for web developers, for virtual assistants, even my video editor who's editing this right now. I think that the most useful thing about Upwork is that you can actually check people's work diary. The work diary allows you to sort of look at their computer, then it shows you like what they've actually been doing. Fortunately, a lot of people on Upwork are actually really good. So now you've got your real estate on the internet. You just want to know who the heck are your users. I tend to use Google Analytics, a free piece of software that you can use to see how many users you're getting, what sort of demographics they're, how long they're staying on the website for, and so that's actually quite useful. Number one thing, and I find that this is one of the most interesting things, Zapier is this piece of software that I use to automate a lot of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. For example, I have a Shopify e-commerce store. What Zapier does is it takes the orders from that Shopify store and then automatically sends it into a Google Sheets. The last thing that I want to leave you with is a set of 3 principles. If you help people, then inevitably you'll be rewarded somehow. Helping people is obviously selfless, but it can also benefit you quite a lot. Doing things at scale, and to do that, you have to do things in smart ways. Everyone sucks at anything they start doing from scratch. Just throw yourself into it, basically. And don't worry too much about the fact that you're not good at something yet, because what you think you can do is only a function of what you know now. As you learn more and more and more, you'll actually realize that there's more possibilities available to you. Just with those small principles, you can make a meaningful difference to someone's life. You don't have to change like the entire world. As long as you're changing one person's life, then you are at least changing their world. Okay, let's leave the video here because I can't beat that. Bye.